Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley if you're new here, and in this video I'm going to be giving a November update. So I'm really excited to give this update because we made some changes again this year, which is probably somewhere on the thumbnail, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So I don't know if YouTube shows the timestamps, but for these videos I usually put timestamps because they're kind of long and you might only want to see an update for one of my sons. So if it doesn't show on the video, just check the description and then you can click around and just watch the update that you are interested in. So I'll be giving an update for my preschooler, my first grader, and then their joint subjects, which are basically just science now, I believe. Because that is another change actually. We made 2 changes this month, I believe. So I guess I will start with my preschooler. I feel like I always bounce around and I'm always starting with someone different every month, but that's okay. We'll start with my preschooler and then I will get into my first grader next. So for Riley, he's doing really well. I think in the last video I told you guys that he just finished the first unit, or maybe we were about to finish the first unit of the Gather Round Preschool. I think letters and numbers, I always forget the name. And I was going to buy the second unit, which I did do. We are planning on doing both the units with him and we're enjoying it. It's going well enough, I'd say. I printed out the student book, but I've yet to print out the teacher's guide. So I think I bought it like 2 weeks ago and we have not actually started the unit yet. I think next week for sure I'm going to start it with him. But in the meantime, we picked back up The Good and the Beautiful Preschool because if you're new here, I was doing that with him last year. Probably like the second semester last year, sort of, when it starting in maybe January or February or something. I started sitting down with him and doing that because he seemed a bit more ready and he was really interested, and I already had it for my older son and I just didn't use it. And so we started it and made it through nearly the first 3 units of it. And so because I didn't get to printing out the whole Gather Round unit, I figured let's just pick this up and work on this for the past, I think we've been doing it past couple weeks. Last week I think was a short week because of Thanksgiving, and so we've been liking that as well. So I think I told you guys in the last video, that I am planning on picking that up at the end of this unit, I believe. So it was just like, we just did a little bit of it for now, and he's actually going over a lot of the same letters that he's going over with Gather Round, coincidentally, so that totally worked well for him. And then I am also slowly working through the preschool Math with Confidence. I can never remember what that one's called either. But it's kind of too slow for him. I really should just probably just table it and move on to The Good and the Beautiful Math, because that's another one that I printed out but I haven't bound together yet, and so I just need to get to binding all of these materials, which I am planning to do this weekend or today hopefully, so that he could start that, because he's really likes math, I think, and I think it starts off super slow. I don't have any intention of finishing the curriculum, or I don't know if we'll start it in his kindergarten year next year or if we will switch to Math with Confidence, but only time will tell. We will see how it goes, see how he does with it, but that's the plan with him. And so overall he's doing really well. That's his little update. And then for my older son, who's in first grade, he is also doing really well. I'm super proud of him and super thankful for how things have gone this year, since I was in my first trimester in the very beginning of the year. I think I started feeling sick probably the beginning of September-ish. So basically the whole year up until October, was it October? Halfway through October or something, I started feeling better. So it's just, I feel like I'm starting to really gain some traction, some serious traction with him. We've been working with him for sure, even when I wasn't feeling well. It just wasn't as consistent as I normally would be with him, and I feel like I have to say this in every video, but if you hear that or see anything right here, it is my dog. And so usually the beginning of the year, you're super pumped about homeschool. You're really have a ton of motivation to get all the things done. And obviously being in my first trimester, that kind of didn't work that way. It didn't go that way, but I feel like I'm starting to like get into it now, although with the holidays I feel like that's also kind of throwing things off a bit. So I think this is just going to be sort of like a wonky year. Hopefully maybe starting in January to May we could be really solid. That's the plan, because I'm due in May, so I would love to get what we want to accomplish done before May, because that just would be really nice. But again, only time will tell. But anyway, let me hop into, let's start with language arts first. So as you saw on the thumbnail, I actually added back in, to probably everyone's surprise, to my own surprise, The Good and the Beautiful, because I have been talking about The Good and the Beautiful and All About Reading probably for a year now. Like, I probably bought All About Reading Level 1 last year, and then I have been updating you guys. Are we going to do both? How are we going to do both? Last year, I ended up not using All About Reading, and basically, like, I started using it and then decided I didn't want to use it. I didn't feel like he needed it, and then only did The Good and the Beautiful. Then this year, we started with The Good and the Beautiful, quickly switched to All About Reading, only did All About Reading for a few months. And then I even said in those videos, I don't think I'm going to add The Good and the Beautiful back in. I did actually, to my credit, I did say that I might use language arts. So I guess maybe it's not as surprising to some of you as it was to me, I guess. But we did add in The Good and the Beautiful, but it's like very loose. I'm not making sure we get X amount of lessons done every week. I'm not making sure we do it every day. We're kind of just, I really actually am enjoying having multiple resources that I can like pull from and teach him with, because with All About Reading, I feel like it's really helpful for the more challenging grammar rules or spelling rules or phonics rules is the word I'm looking for. And so in All About Reading Level 2, in close to the beginning, which I'm kind of surprised that they taught this early on, because it definitely was a very challenging subject, is they teach the 2 vowel rule in a word. So there's either 1 consonant in between the 2 vowels or 2 consonants, and it teaches them how to split it into syllables and then sound it out, versus if it's open or closed syllables. And I feel like having All About Reading for that was super helpful. I think I went forward and saw when The Good and the Beautiful teaches it, which is not for quite a while, into, I believe it's this year. Like maybe towards the end of 1st grade, and I honestly feel like I don't think he would have understood it. So I'm really thankful to have All About Reading for that. But then there are certain phonics rules that are very easy to grasp, right? Like AR says R. So he learned that very quickly. I just told him that's what it says, that's the sound it makes, and then he just went with it, right? So I feel like I'm able to hop back and forth between the curriculum, where when it's something easy, which so far in The Good and the Beautiful where we left off, it's a lot of very easy phonics rules that I could just tell him, and then he just reads the words, and it's some practice, and then eventually we probably will still get to it in All About Reading, but we're able to introduce some other concepts. He's practicing some spelling. I know there will be some grammar rules in there, or at least learning, you know, what a noun is and a verb. And so I feel like I'm covering my bases a bit better, which I really like. And so that's what we're doing. I don't know, like I said, I don't think we're going to finish The Good and the Beautiful this year, because we started so late, but I'm not really like, I don't really care if we finish. I do want to try to get through the whole thing of All About Reading Level 2, if at all possible, by May. But it really is going to come down to him and how well he picks up the concepts or how fast he picks them up. And if he doesn't get through the whole thing, I'm also not super worried about it, because I know there's a lot of people who use All About Reading will just pause wherever their kid ends that year and then pick it up the next year. But I know for sure that I will be practicing phonics with him over the summer, since I didn't do that last year and it didn't go very well for us. So I think having both the resources will be good. I think having The Good and the Beautiful for the summer, though, would be perfect, because he's able to move through it much faster than he was last year, where a lesson would take us probably, I don't know, 40 minutes, I think. That's probably with the special reading, the 10 minutes of reading ahead of time. But now I feel like we could do it much faster, because he's just able to read a lot faster. And so I think it'll be good to have that for next summer, to continue on and keep practicing all the skills so he doesn't regress. So that's my language arts update. I'm really excited about it. I feel like I finally figured it out, like where we've been trying to figure it out. Although I say that and like things could change in another, year or something. Who knows? I feel like you are having to teach the child, not just finding like the perfect curriculum. And sometimes your child just needs different things. And even though we kind of just want to stick with something we picked out and not feel like we're changing all the time, I think sometimes it can be really helpful for your kid to add something in or change something sometimes more than we might like. So I guess we will do our math update next. And for math, we're still chugging along through Math with Confidence. This week we're finishing week 12. So we're definitely like not as far along as I would like. I believe there's 32 lessons in the year. And but I counted it out, and if I take off 1 week for Christmas and then just don't take off any other weeks through till I think the end of April or the beginning of May, we should finish. So that's the goal. Even if we take off like an entire week for reading and just have him practice a little bit of reading before bed 1 week instead of sitting down for lessons, I'm going to try not to take off any full weeks for math. And like I said, try to get through the curriculum by the end of the year. If we are off a week or two, I don't think I'm going to be overly upset about it because I could just pick it up in the summer, maybe after I have the baby or something. I don't know. But that's the goal. I also am considering, I said this in my last update video, I think, that I'm going to try to do math every single day of the week, even on the weekends, and that just has not happened. There's no way. I don't think that's going to happen, but if I could pull it off for like a couple weeks, I think that could bump us ahead a couple weeks, which could give us a bit more wiggle room. So I'm still going to try to be a bit more consistent, maybe do it more than 4 days a week, because it's really a 4-day-a-week curriculum. And then there's one enrichment day, I think they call it, but I haven't done any of those this year. Definitely not. And so that's the plan. Hopefully I can get us a little bit ahead so that maybe, like I said, there's a little more wiggle room. I also mentioned in the last video that for our schedule, I was going to try to do a full day's worth, or at least do like language arts and math for my older son for sure on a Sunday, so that I could have a day off during the week, because we're doing like a co-op type thing on Fridays. So last year I had one full day of like being able to just stay home, clean the house, do whatever I needed to do at home, where this year I don't have that. And so my solution to that was to do language arts and math with my older son on Sundays, so I could take off during the week or just have to do a little bit with my younger son. But we have not done that either. Not really anyway. But it's still been working. Like, I think I am just being a bit more relaxed with myself and not sticking to like if we didn't do All About Reading 4 days a week, like we were behind, or like I said, we're just kind of going with the flow. We're going, like, he's learning enough, I feel like, because we're doing both the curriculums. That's really helping. So if 1 week we only do that 3 days a week, I'm deciding that's okay. It's not going to be every week. And I'm really trying to get him into a habit of reading with his dad before bed, which we have not. We were doing it for a little bit a few months ago, and then we've kind of fallen off. And so I want to add that back in. So at least if we didn't get to our language arts one day, if he's practicing reading at night, that's, obviously nearly good enough, I think. So for some days anyway. So that's somehow we ended up back on language arts in our schedule and all that, but that's the math update. Oh, actually, I totally forgot to mention before I start talking about our schedules and everything, I also sort of added the Good and the Beautiful math back in. I already had printed out the first grade one, and so I don't know exactly why I decided to do it. I think it was just kind of like, we do school after dinner sometimes because it's just easier that way. While my husband's cleaning up the dishes, my younger two will go play, and then I can sit down with my older son, where it's hard to get my younger two to play for, longer than an hour together in the morning when my husband's at work. And so I feel like I don't have over an hour to work with my older son, and I would prefer to have more time to go. Like, sometimes we just do a couple things in the morning and then we do math after dinner. And so I think one of the times after dinner I added it back in to be like, oh, let's just work on this real quick, get some practice. And that's kind of all it is. It's just kind of like some extra practice for him. I don't know how much of it we'll get through, but it's just kind of there when I feel like throwing it at him, being like, hey, let's work on this a little bit. Because again, it's good to have some extra practice. So that's our math update. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of a social studies, geography, history update here rather than in the joint subjects, because they were doing, I can't remember if I talked about this in my last video, but both boys I was trying to do the 50 states study with them, but I have since decided not to do that with them this year just because with everything going on, I just did not get to it. It was not high up on the priority list, and I always just said like, oh, there's only 25 units, like it's only 25 weeks. So I'm like, we'll get to it. Like I'll just, once I start feeling better, we'll get to it. But it's just, there's really just not enough time in the day. I just don't feel like prioritizing that. I don't feel like it's a good use of our time, I guess, right now. And so I decided to just pick up the 180 Days of Social Studies for First Grade workbook, which I'm not generally like, I don't generally love those types of books just because they feel really dry and like I don't really know how much of it he's going to retain. But this year I just decided I need something easy for at least one subject because we're also doing, which I will get to next, a Sunlight Science program this year, and that's a bit more, it's really not that big of a deal, but I just needed something simple. And so I switched him to that. It's 180 days, obviously, so we're starting pretty late, but we're doing like 2 or 3 pages, not every single day, but when we get to it, 2 or 3 pages. And so I'm going to just work through that and then have something to say that we worked on social studies this year, and I'm sure he's going to learn things from it. So it's really not a big deal if it's not the fun thing to do. We're just not going to be able to do the fun thing for every subject, and that's totally fine. So that's what we're doing. I feel like the beginning of it is extremely easy and not teaching him anything at all. But I'm sure it will get into it. If you want, let me know if you guys would be interested in seeing like sort of like a flip through of that or something. I could make it its own video or maybe put it in like a vlog or something. But yeah, that's what we're doing for social studies now. So I guess I will get to the group subjects now, which really is just Bible and science, which for Bible, it's still going well enough. We're doing the 2 books that I had in my one video, and the last video we were still working through those until technically this video is coming out a little bit into December. So for December, I'm switching things up a bit where we are doing like an Advent, or no, it's not really a program. It's the Jesus Storybook Bible. I'll show like a picture. They have one book where it kind of like just prompts you to walk through the Jesus Storybook Bible for the month of December, and then it comes with another book, or at least mine did, and it has different activities that they can do with it, which we actually haven't gotten to any activities yet. Maybe I should try to do that with them either today or this weekend, because there's one for every day. That's what we're doing for Advent this year. I'm excited because it's pretty like low-key, but I really like the Jesus Storybook Bible, and so instead of reading our regular Bible, we're just switching to that for the month of December for Christmas, and then we'll switch back to our regular Bible. And then for science, it's going pretty well. It's going a little better than it was. We did in November, I think, a couple experiments, so not as many as I wanted, but at least more than we were doing. We're still behind like maybe 5 or 6 or something, and like I said in the last video, I think I'm just going to have them watch the videos and just try not to be too like perfectionistic about it, and maybe just be like, okay, it's okay if they don't do these experiments. Unless one of them looks really fun, then maybe we'll do it on the weekend. But I'm trying to at least keep up with them now. So we actually haven't, it's Friday. I'm actually filming this the same day I'm going to post it, and so it's Friday and we have not gotten to the experiment for the week. So I told them to remind me that after quiet time we need to do that. So that's the plan. It's going well. They really like it. I like it too. I just find that the experiments, even after you watch the video, I don't love the way that the book lays them out. They seem really intense for like kindergarten. Like it kind of tries to walk them through the scientific method, and I just kind of feel like it's a bit too soon, kind of. It just makes it feel really complicated, and I think that's partly why I don't get to it. But yeah, overall, we like it. I'm trying to decide if we're going to use this for next year. I'm really torn. I'm not sure yet, but we'll give it the rest of the year to find out. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I think that's everything I wanted to update you guys on. I almost forgot. I want to throw in here at the end a little pregnancy update, mostly because I like to hear about other people's pregnancy when they're pregnant and just for my own memory's sake. So I am now 17 weeks pregnant now, and I think for all of November I felt relatively really good. After not feeling good, obviously the 2 months before that, it was so very welcomed. I remember the first few weeks after I started feeling better, which was I started feeling better the 12th week, like not immediately after I hit 12, but maybe like 12 and a half. I all of a sudden felt really good, and then it stayed consistent for like a few weeks. I felt like I had so much energy. I feel like after you don't have energy for so long and feel so like yucky for so long, you like forget what it actually feels like to feel good, like truly good. And so I think that's kind of what it was. I felt so good after that. I had so much energy. I didn't feel pregnant anymore. I didn't have like a bump at all yet. So, I mean, maybe like a very little bit, but I couldn't feel the baby yet. So that gave me a little bit of anxiety, because it always does in that stage of pregnancy, right after you start feeling better. But before you go feel the baby, I always feel a little bit of anxiety. But this time, since it is my fourth, I kind of told myself, like, you've done this 3 other times and you've been worried 3 other times. And so maybe this time, don't get so worried. It's happened with each of them. And so that actually kind of worked a bit. And also praying and just, leaving it up to God and trusting Him. That helped some too, of course. And so I don't have a ton to say about it, but I said in my last update that I would do some sort of fun gender reveal. I completely forgot about that. So I think I'm just going to tell you guys here. This baby is a boy. So I am not surprised by that at all. We have 2 boys and then a girl, and then this is a boy. And so my husband is actually one of 3 brothers, and then I have 2 nephews from one of his brothers, and then we had 2 boys first, and then we had our baby girl. And so there was 7 boys that were born in a row in that family. So like the 3 brothers and then 4 grandsons for my mother-in-law, and then a baby girl. And so it was like, this is rare. This is very rare to have a girl in this family. And so obviously I would have said that I guess I would have liked a girl, only because I think it would have been really cool for my daughter to have a sister, 2 boys and 2 girls. Like, it just sounds really nice. But I wasn't disappointed at all, and I love having little boys, and so yeah, we're having another boy, and so we're very excited. I think I also mentioned this in a last video, but we're pretty sure this is our last baby. Not like nothing is in concrete stone. I want to pray about it and like just allow God to lead us. My husband is feeling definitely done, so if we do end up having any more, I mean, I'm feeling done too, but he's like, it took him a while to get on board for this baby, so I don't really foresee him having another one, but, and I don't really want to be pregnant again, if I'm being honest. Pregnancy is obviously challenging, and I'm so thankful, so very thankful to be pregnant and to be able to be pregnant, but it does sound kind of nice to move on to the next stage, but then of course it also sounds really sad to leave behind the baby stage. So that's the tentative plan. It's we're pretty confident, but you never know, right? I think the only other thing that I could really update you guys on is that I started feeling the baby move in the 16th week, I think, like, for sure. I definitely felt him move, I think, before that, maybe in like the 15th and 14th week, like very, very little, like tiny little like feelings of it, where it was like Was that the baby? It felt like the baby, but it only happened once and then it didn't happen again, so it was really hard to know for sure. But I'd say I think week 16 was when he started moving enough in one area that I'm like, oh, that's definitely him. So that was really exciting too. So yeah, this pregnancy update is nothing but good things, which I'm so very thankful for. But I just wanted to thank you so much for watching this. If you made it all the way to the end, I feel like it's a pretty long video. Thank you for being here. Please let me know how your homeschool year is going so far. You're probably about halfway done if you started at like a regular time and stayed consistent unlike we did. So let me know, how's it going for you guys? Have you made any changes? How are you liking your curriculum? But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.